All right, so Rob, let's jump right into it. Give some context. How long have you been in this crazy business of real estate sales, and what market are you in?
As of March of this year, I've been a full-time real estate agent here in Louisville, Kentucky for just over 11 years.
Wow,
So, yeah, yeah,
it's awesome. So, just like we were talking off air, I want to get into the ups and downs of a real estate career, and just the different avenues this business can take us through. So, why don't you kind of get into your story a bit, and
yeah.
then we'll kind of unpack it because I think this episode will be really special and resonate with a lot of people that have been doing this for a while
Mhm.
in like the reality of this business, the ups and downs. So take a
Yeah,
few minutes, don't rush it. There's no rush. Walk us through kind
yeah.
of your story.
Very early on, probably I was in full time. When I jumped in full time. Like I had fantastic support at home and a lot of drive to go after it really heavily. And interestingly enough, when I first got in, I jumped right into calling for sale by owners and doing open houses. Like that's how I started to build my business. About a year, maybe year and a half into it, um, got essentially talked into a conversation with a more experienced agent at the company I was with at the time. And we started down this path of partnering on some of our stuff. He saw, what I was doing. So essentially I was taking his sign calls, converting those, doing all that stuff. And then all of a sudden I was going on listing appointments and he realized that I had a lot of comfort and skill set inside of like just lead conversion and creating opportunities. And he was more administratively driven and that sort of thing. So it was an interesting fit. And so we decided to officially partner up and start building this team. Now we didn't have a flipping clue as to what we were doing, like not clue one, right? And he was running the whole administrative side of things. I was doing the sales and also bringing on and training agents and everything. And we ran like that for 4 years. And gosh, there was an 18-month period where we literally implemented and executed on 9 different real estate platforms,
Hmm.
9 platforms in 18 months. And so we're talking full blown like front end websites, back end contact management, like we had it all lined out and then we'd scrap it and try another one. And on top of that, we were spending just insane amounts of money on leads and the agents we had on our team knew this and basically it was like, well, why am I going to bother following up? I got like 12 more right behind that. So it was a really not profitable business for me for 4 years, to the point where it was like I was literally writing checks back into the business just to keep us afloat.
Hmm.
So and it's funny, Brandon. I always tell people like in 11 years, if I've done nothing, I have earned a PhD in how to make my life harder. Like I've absolutely earned that. And so there was a lot of this like trial and error and a lot of shiny object and a lot of things going on. And then I finally got away from that. Um, Split ways with my partner. It was like an ugly divorce. It just did not go well. But I was in a place of like, okay, I now need to figure out how to do this in the most simple and basic manner that is humanly possible. And that's when I returned back to phone prospecting like I was doing when I first got in the business. And now I'm starting to produce. I'm gaining some skill sets. I'm starting to understand. I'm not doing it in what like that Socratic way that brilliant style of prospecting that when you and I met, like I was able to really grasp onto. I was going to war, right? Like every day I was prospecting in the way that most traditional real estate coaches teach, like bring them to a place of fear and ignorance and make people feel stupid for not setting up the listing appointment. Oh, by the way, if they don't set a listing appointment with you, like first phone call, it's not a lead, scrap it, move on. Like all of those things that today, looking back on it now with the experience of working with you and the team and having partnered with you on some things and that sort of like it's laughable to me now.
Mm.
But you fast forward to today, and I'm here, like I'm prospecting on a regular basis. I'm happy doing it. Um, I and like anybody else, like I go through seasons of distraction, and having recently re-engaged with you and with the community, have found, yeah,
So yeah, it makes a ton of sense. It's I think what people go through these different seasons, the longer they're in the business. And what I want to talk about specifically is, in your experience, what is it that you think pulls you away or other people away from a basic, simple business, specifically this whole idea around a team? Let's start with that
yeah,
major distraction first,
yeah.
because I think a lot of people, after they have some early success, is
Mm-hmm.
they find themselves, as soon as they become successful, they say, well, how do I leverage out of this and
Mm-hmm.
start building a team? And yeah, sometimes it works, but most of the time, it's a long, painful, expensive journey off the beaten path just to come back to the basics. So for
Yeah.
you, what was the pull to start a team in your mind?
I would say it was, for starters, being so new. Like I was going down the path of trying to build a team when I was a year into doing this, right? And
Yeah. Which is
so there
which
was,
is which is when a lot of people do it. That's
yeah,
kind of my question
yeah,
is they're in it
yeah,
for a year and then it's like all of a sudden I'm gonna build this team. But go
yeah.
ahead, I digress.
No, I feel like it's there's part of it. There's a large portion of it that's ego driven. Like I have
But
no shame in saying that whatsoever. Like everything I did in building that team was completely driven by my ego. Like I was all about, here's our top line sales volume revenue. Look at us kicking ass. Like that was what that drove me. Ignore that negative number down there in the profit piece of it. Don't worry about that. Just look at this, right? Like look at this top line revenue. And I think that's, you don't fully comprehend the complete and total story of operating a true business at that level. Not yet. You haven't had the experience of truly understanding profit and loss, and like, and understanding like how to hire and how to fire, and like all those different things are so, it's all packaged so neatly in so many places, and is made to look so simple. And there's this like idea of like the absentee like team operator, right? Like
yep,
I can put this team together and every single one of them is going to operate exactly as I do, and it's like having a bunch of me's running around and I can go chill on the beach.
yep.
And it's just not the case.
It's not the case at all. I think
No.
that when we get into real estate, the thing that is playing on us, and you talked about a couple things. One is ego,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're working for yourself, you get some quick success. So
Yep.
that's number one. Number two is vanity metrics
Yeah.
of, winning all the awards, winning the accolades, looking successful. But then when you pull back the curtain, the little Wizard of Oz, it's like, wow, this team leader actually doesn't make any money from this team.
Yeah.
They look very successful, but they're not. And then the other thing is leading yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
see, I think that's a massive, massive thing that people underestimate. And I know you know what I mean, but for the audience sake, when we talk about leading yourself, you see, there are character traits that someone must grow over time of business maturity before they start to be responsible for other human beings' careers. And as a new entrepreneur, you just don't have that yet. Your emotions are way too up and down because you said something in the first 2 minutes of the episode, which is proof of young entrepreneur leadership, which is you tried 9 different strategies in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That is just a business immaturity that I think a lot of us
Yeah.
have to go through, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
it's that shiny object syndrome that most new entrepreneurs have, especially in the business of real estate. You being in this for 11 years, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
Agents trying
Yep.
everything under the sun, trying and looking for the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my second question, right? So we talked about what pulls people to the team. And I think a lot of people get pulled to this idea of a team because it's how do I make money without having to sell houses? How do
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
That's a huge thing, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with building a team. There's nothing wrong with building a brokerage. I believe it in 100%. It's
Mm-hmm.
just when and how is the big question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of pieces we've got to put in place before we get down that path.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
second thing around that is this process of mastering the fundamentals. And I think this is a big thing that people often also overlook is they chase all these different strategies and tactics before they've truly mastered the basics, which continues to pull you back, right?
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
it's I try all these different things and then you come back to the basics and say, holy crap. As an example, I mean, I just read your last post. I don't know if you got, what was it, 10 listings in the last 2 months or something crazy?
Yeah. So I've challenged myself a little bit. I'm doing what I'm calling it 15 and 20. So 15 sold listings in 20 weeks. And that 20 weeks wraps up right before we kind of take a pause for Christmas and all the fun stuff that happens then. So really since re-engaging back within the community of reverse selling, I had signed 10 listings. I've got, as of today, one of those has closed and 5 are under contract. So, and I'm poised to take some more. Like it's you set the, you and I were kind of joking about it offline, is it's amazing what happens when you do something simple like pick up the damn phone and have conversations and stuff happens. It's amazing, right? Like,
It's incredible. What
yeah.
pulls people away from that? Because you've tried everything. You know,
Hmm.
often, Rob, you know, it's I think about you all the time, and I don't know if I ever told you that, but that's the truth. In that, it's just a story that happens all too often, which is somebody that has amazing skill set in just having conversation, picking up the phone, real basic business. They get away from that, trying all this stuff,
Hmm.
and none of it is as effective as just a simple basic outbound business. What is the issue? Like, what's the hang up? Is it just that prospecting is hard and everything else is
Yeah.
easy? But like, tell me what it is.
So I feel like like for me, if I really look hard at it, to me there's two things, that one of two things happens at any given time. And I'm more aware of it now. So I'm able to kind of pump the brakes and go, okay,
Mm,
hang on, that you've been here before.
that's
You
right.
know what the rest of this story looks like. And so it's boredom or burnout. Those are
Yeah.
the only two things that really cause, in my opinion, an individual, and there's lots of other like versions of that, but in my eyes, it comes down to boredom or burnout.
Yeah.
Prospecting, outbound calling is not exciting. It is boring work. And
Yeah.
it's boring all the way until you're sitting on a vacation because you did the hard work. I mean, it's that's what it is, right? And burnout, like understanding that you're going to get told no a lot.
Yeah.
And every human being on the planet has a threshold for that. It's how, in my, what I've come to is, it just comes down to how I personally deal with it, and how I kind of pause, look at, okay, why am I feeling this way? What can I, you know, learn from feeling this way? And what can I remember should I choose to respond in the same way I always have, which is, let's go find something else that might be easier or work better, or whatever the case may be. So it's that
That's right.
those little reminders that I feel like pull you back. But to answer your original question, like, I genuinely believe it's always going to be boredom or burnout. That's
Yeah.
for me. That's that. If I look at myself, I know that that's the case for me.
Yeah, that's the cycle you're talking about. That's the self-awareness that you're referring to say, wait a minute, I've been down this road before,
Mm-hmm.
and you're saying when you start to feel that boredom, you start to feel that burnout. That's where you kind of pick your head up, start looking around for the lady in the
Mm-hmm.
red dress.
Yep.
What
Yep.
else is out there? You know,
Yeah.
and it happens to everybody. They get all excited about the newness, the new
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? And then as soon as the new thing is no longer new, and that it is fading away, it doesn't matter if it's outbound prospecting or if it's internet leads or if it's open houses or it's starting a team, starting a brokerage, taking a new role. As soon as the newness fades, we often tend to look for the woman in the red dress. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a massive thing that you've gone through, which is the self-awareness. I went through the same thing. Like, nope, nope, because I've been down this road before, and I know that this new thing will be like just the thing I'm doing now. And the
Yeah.
way I fought shiny object syndrome is to say, well, if I start the new thing, by the time that new thing is starting to get results, where would I have been if I didn't stop doing the thing I'm doing now?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing you start looking at and you, wow, man, it's when you start to look at that. I mean, Brandon, I had hair like you before I started doing that. And it just, I ended up yanking it all out. Now, I'm telling you, man, it's wild when you really start to look at it. And the other thing that it literally just came to me is the success we create by doing the basic stuff that becomes boring becomes the fuel, literally the capability to go do something else.
Mm,
Because now we can just start swiping that credit card for whatever looks easier, right? So like you prospect for a while, you do some business. Oh, sweet. I got all this extra money. I can go out and buy a bunch of leads. I don't have to do this prospecting crap anymore. That's just not true because
that's right.
it's the prospecting that gave you the ability to like completely like just right hand turn the opposite direction. And it's that's the piece that I become aware of too, is like I find at my highest moments of my business is when I'm starting to go, oh, well, I've got some leverage here. I could do something else and maybe not have to prospect so much.
So interesting. It's like you're right. The thing that got you, that afforded you the lifestyle, the thing that actually got you there is the same thing you're saying that makes you look around. You work really
Mm-hmm.
hard for a year or two through prospecting, and you got maybe $100,000 in your bank account where you
Mm-hmm.
didn't before. It's like, you take your foot off the pedal, start looking around. Wait, what is that
Yeah.
thing over there?
Yeah.
I can afford to do that. I don't need to. And so it makes a ton of sense. The
Yep.
other thing I look at is, again, you were just talking about it. Mastery is simply the execution of the basics.
Mm-hmm.
That's what mastery is. And so a
Yeah.
lot of people think that mastery is complex. Mastery is simplicity. It's
Mm-hmm.
mastering the repetitious boredom that you're talking about. Mastery is, again, it's execution of the basics forever. That's
Yeah.
mastery. And
Yep.
so I ask this other question too to people. What's the alternative, right? And you've been down that road. If not this, right? So you've gotten, again, 10 listings in the last, I don't know, 45 days since you've re-engaged. And I think, is that the number? Is it 10 listings?
Yeah,
And
10
that
listings
10
signed
list,
with, and five of them, one has closed and five are sitting under contract right now.
okay. So I
Yep.
always ask agents, I'm like, okay, well, what is the alternative? If not this, if you got 10 listings, because we're not asking, Rob, people to like the work. We just want them
No.
to like the result. It's the
Yeah.
same thing like working out. I don't need you to love the workout. I just want you to love the way it makes you look and the way it makes you feel. You
It's
know?
funny you say that.
Yeah.
So I work out in my garage at home and it's a detached garage with no insulation or anything. It was 28 degrees here this morning. I'm out there in
Oh,
a freaking hoodie and gloves and it's
that's
like,
right.
yeah, there's nothing I enjoyed about that at
Yeah.
all. At
But
all.
afterwards, you always love how you feel for the rest of
Oh,
the day. You love the
absolutely.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I always say, well, what is the alternative? If you're not going to do this thing that
Mm-hmm.
you've proven to yourself over and over and over again to get these results, and then I have agents start to think about, well, what else would you be doing? Then it also helps them, I think, to bring back to say, that's a good point. Like, what else would you have
Yeah.
done? What else have you done, Rob, that has gotten you 10 listings in 45 days outside of outbound prospecting?
There's nothing, literally
Nothing.
nothing. That there's,
And
I
you've
mean,
tried it all, right? Like,
there isn't anything I haven't tried, to include coaching programs,
yeah.
platforms, CRMs, lead sources. I mean, it doesn't, I have literally tried nearly everything that's offered to the real estate space, and absolutely nothing at any point in my career has ever produced the results that just simply sitting down and making calls has produced.
It's incredible because, and the reason why I say it's incredible because I don't know that many people that know as much as you do. Like the amount of stuff you know about things in real estate, it's incredible. And that's why I asked you that. But yet here it is, like the most simple, basic thing of just, and you know what? We do have to give it a lot of credit because it's not easy. It takes a lot of
Mhm.
sales skills, takes a lot of character traits to make
Mhm.
outbound prospecting work. It's not like it's a secret. Everybody knows, but it's very rare that people can succeed in it. So that's another reason why it rejects so many people and
Yeah.
causes them to go do something else too. It's not easy. It's very, very difficult task to do, but somebody with your skill set, you've made it happen. So, I guess as you let's break down your prospecting outbound business just a little
Yeah.
bit, and then I
Yeah.
want to talk about the way you see things moving forward. Because hindsight's 2020, and you have 11 years of experience.
Mhm.
Sometimes the learning's in the doing, and it helps us to see
Absolutely.
clear as
Yeah.
we look ahead based on the
Yep.
bumps and the bruises we got in the past.
Yep.
So, what does the business look like today? Like, what are the lead sources? How many contacts are you making? Let's break this
Yeah.
down.
So, my primary lead sources, since day one have always been for sale by owners and expireds. And some of that's market driven. Like which one is the primary is always
Right.
market driven. Without having a lot of expireds, for sale by owners have become a big part of my business. Beyond that, from there, I move into, it's I feel like I'm starting to do a better job with communicating with my past clients.
Mm,
Referral business, that sort of thing always has
yes.
worked really well in my world. Like I just, not because I'm like this crazy good, like I'm doing much better today than I once did as far as
Yeah.
staying in touch with my past clients. But I always put so much into serving my clients when I had the opportunity to do so that I create enough of a memorable experience that I do get a fair amount of referral business. Um, I also work a lot of off market type stuff in the sense of like absentees, pre foreclosure, tired landlords, those kinds of lead sources that work really well.
Yeah.
Especially going into the market like we're going into, I've always focused on need to sell prospects. A long time ago, somebody said to me, a homeowner who wants to sell will drive you crazy. A homeowner who needs to sell will make you rich. And
Yeah.
so I focus on finding those people who have a genuine need, a problem to be solved. And so that's really where it comes from. But honestly, the of the 10, I've got one that was a past client. I've got one that was I found a deal for an investor, and part of me bringing him that deal was he was going to list it with me when he got the flip done. So that's that one. Everything else is for sale by owner and expired.
So, okay, let's give people an idea, because here's the other caveat to this story: is
Mm-hmm.
45 days ago, you had no pipeline. Is that fair to say? Like you'd kind of
Yeah.
been out of the game for a minute.
Yeah. Yep. I've
So,
been very distracted. I was working on getting like my brokers, like in Kentucky, you've
yes.
got salesperson and then you got brokers. So I was working on getting my broker's license and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, a lot of distractions and no business.
Okay, so that's even more, I'll call it impressive, because you it wasn't like you've been nurturing this huge database. That's why I want the audience to
Mm-mm.
really understand how quickly this can happen with this model.
Mm-hmm.
You got 8 listings out of thin air in
Yeah.
just 45 days of doing this.
Yeah. It's like
So,
printing money, man. I
yeah, it
mean,
really is.
you're creating money literally out of nowhere.
That's right. So,
Yep.
how much prospecting are you having to do to generate results like that? So, let's first talk about on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
How much time are you putting into outbound prospecting?
Typically, it's about anywhere between 2 and 2.5 hours in the morning. Like
And then,
yeah.
okay. And
Yep.
then how many people do you typically talk to in that period of time?
I mean, my contact rate has been really, really low. Like
Hmm.
I'm talking 4 to 5 an hour.
Okay.
Um, but the conversations that I'm having, and again, this is all, in my opinion, this is 11 years of not being afraid to pick up the phone. The conversations that I'm having are leading to really good opportunities.
So you're having,
So
yeah, it makes total sense because your
yeah,
skill set is so high, right?
right. Yeah.
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 So you're having 10 conversations a day, 50
Mm-hmm.
people. Um, I guess what I wanted to show the audience, it's not like you're sitting there prospecting for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. I mean,
No.
You're
No.
working 2.5, 3 hours a day in about 2 months. You could start to get into
Yep.
a business that's
Yep.
paying you 10, 12, $15,000 a month. That's incredible. That's why I think a lot of people are
Yeah.
drawn to this business and they're drawn to outbound prospecting because of results like that.